to say thank you so much to both of you, Kate and Ravit, for putting this event together because you know that there's nothing I love more than books. So I'm honored to be kicking off the event today.
Yes, we couldn't think of anyone better than you to kick this off. I think you've read all the books, so this is your time to shine. And guys, definitely follow the hashtag Book a Week challenge. Ravit and I are going to hop off stage and let you take this away.
Perfect. Thank you. So, welcome everyone again. I'm really excited to kick this off, and I'm also super excited to stay tuned for the rest of the event today. I've read quite a few of the books that we're going to be getting to walk through. I've actually got a lot of them right here. So, I'll be staying tuned in later as well, but let's jump into my content. So, Kate, you can go ahead and share my screen. Now, I've decided to focus today on how to make habits stick. And appropriately so, I'm going to connect this a lot to the Book a Week challenge. But you'll see that many of the tips and tricks that I'm going to go through, they can be applied to all sorts of habits. So to set the stage for those who don't know me as well, as Ravit was explaining, I'm not a book author, but somebody's got to read all these books that we're going to be going through. That's why I'm here today speaking. I'm the host of the Book a Week Challenge on LinkedIn. And this is a personal initiative that I started a couple years ago. And it turned into this community effort. And the idea of it is that I share a weekly reading on LinkedIn. So I share my learnings and my summaries of books. And I encourage others as well to join this challenge and to help push them to read more and really to foster this continuous learning mindset. Now, I also work in the data world, as mentioned, for Ways at Google. So a lot of the content that I read is related to tech and data. Now, I also started the Book a Month challenge earlier this year. And I recognize that not everyone's schedule is so forgiving, but I can guarantee you, I firmly believe that everyone can read at least one book a month. Now, I personally read only paperback books, but for others, it's much better to go with ebooks or audiobooks. Now, in reality, my reading, which seems like a huge feat, this conquering a book a week, it can sound like a lot, but in the end, it's just about setting these small daily habits. Now, small habits are underestimated. You have to realize that your life is the sum of your habits. So, how in shape you are, how much you've progressed in your career, your skills and your knowledge, it all comes from habits. Now, reading 30 pages per day is roughly 40 books a year. If you think about it, that's a significant chunk of the Book a Week challenge now complete. Along the same lines, running 1 mile per day is 365 miles per year. Saving $10 per day is $3,650 per year. So every little bit matters. What are you waiting for? To make a habit stick, first of all, I would say formally set your habit and block regular time in your day for achieving it. So, block time for when and how you're going to do this. For me, reading is something that I do to disconnect from the busyness of life and really to get off this excessive screen time. So, I start and end every day with a book. Now that's where I get the core of my reading in, but as well, I sneak a little bit more in at other times during the day or on the weekend. So I would say on average, I'm reading a little over an hour every day. And it may sound like a lot at first, but evaluate how you spend your free time in a day. Take a second to think about it and look through it because I can almost guarantee that you'll find room for optimization. This means less time scrolling on Facebook or watching reality TV. Now, my second tip is to choose wisely. So, do you. When it comes to forming habits, make sure you're doing something that you truly enjoy, not something that you're doing in order to improve a public perception of you or because someone told you to. Now, finding the joy in a healthy habit has twofold impact. So, you're having fun, but you're also doing something for the betterment of yourself. Now, when it comes to reading, after so many years of continuous reading for myself, I've gotten really good at understanding the types of books that I enjoy. Just because a book is on the New York Times bestseller list, it does not mean that you're going to enjoy it. So learn a little bit about yourself and make sure you're choosing wisely as you form these types of habits. Next is to track your progress. So quantify your habit and monitor your progress over time. I'm a data person, so numbers really speak to me, but they tend to speak to others as well. Why do you think all of these fitness apps they work so well? Because most of them they digitize, they datafy, and they visualize your progress over time, and they push you towards these stretch goals. Now, for reading, my go to is Goodreads. It allows you to track your reading over time and to set goals like the yearly challenge, and even to measure things like pages read or books read over time. The fourth tip, and I think this is a really important one, it's a very strong one that can help you commit for the long term. And that's to make sure you're making this a public commitment. So it's not just a personal thing, but share it with your network because you'll feel more committed, like there's more at stake. I think LinkedIn is one of the best platforms to do this. So even if your habit is not direct to your professional work, it helps show this human side of you. It can help get your community involved. They can help push you along. And then at the same time, in many cases, you can inspire others to pick up this same habit and join your challenge. So in my case, I had the book a week challenge, but you may also be familiar with Kin G and his 66 days of data. You have Albert Bellamy and his LinkedIn hard mode. And then, of course, we have our very own Kate and her DATAcated. These are all about forming habits. Now, my last tip is just to rotate and to keep your mind curious for more. Find ways to vary the form or the setting of your habit so it doesn't become monotonous. If your habit is running, for example, then switch up the different trails that you're running on. In my case, for books, it means changing up the genres that I'm reading. So, depending on my mood for the week, I may read history, sci fi, biographies, and so on. But I've always got this varying selection to choose from. As well, I kind of force myself to do this to change around because knowing me, I would just stick with sci-fi all the time if I really could choose. But I'm forcing myself to open my mind and be exposed to more, which in the end, it's showing me these new ways of thinking and new perspectives. So when you're trying to set a habit, reading or any others, number one, formally block time in your day. Number two, choose wisely. Do you. Number three, track your progress over time. Number four, make a public commitment. And number five, rotate and keep your mind curious for more. I may be biased as the book queen, but I think reading books is one of the best habits that you can pick up. Not just because I enjoy it, but there's a lot of health benefits as well. Now, to close up for today, I wanted to share with you one of my favorite reading quotes, and it says, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one." So I encourage you to join the Book a Week Challenge or the Book a Month Challenge and to join our community of readers. I love to see what others are reading, and it's great, really, to be there publicly and sharing a little bit about yourself. Now, I'm super excited to tune into the rest of the talks today. You know, I'm going to be right there in the chat, and I cannot wait to hear from the rest of the speakers. We can go ahead and open it if there are any questions.
All right, all right. Thank you so much for that, Christina. Great talk. I absolutely love it. I'm very big on habits as well, and I love reading and running. So this talk was really perfect for me. I'm like, yes, yes, Christina, running, yes, reading, absolutely. And I think replacing some of the, I guess, activities that are not as productive, like watching TV or scrolling through social media, unless it's LinkedIn, of course. You know, other social media can be a waste of time, and I think reading is definitely a good way to get through some of those learnings that you're trying to get through. I'm also more of a paperback person, but I tend to listen to audiobooks as well. I know we had some questions in there about audiobooks. I think those can be effective. What are your thoughts on audiobooks?
Yeah, I think everyone has their own, you know, you have to find what works for you and what suits you. I don't do audiobooks at all, actually, but I could see, for example, maybe someone who has a commute and they drive to work for 45 minutes every morning and come back. That's a great time to get an audiobook in. Me, on the other hand, well, pre-COVID, I used public transportation. So it was better for me. I like to have a physical book in my hands. But I
Hmm.
think everyone has, what works for them, whether it's physical or ebook or audiobook, but they definitely all count.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, this is super cool. And Christina, I have a question for you. So, and I'm sure most of the folks who are attending, I enjoyed your session because I loved it. So, this question is more around the lines where how many books have you actually read till date?
I on my Goodreads account, but this I started a few years ago, so I think it's like 253 or something
Oh
around that. It has it
my.
on my Goodreads account, so
Oh,
little
I
by
Wow.
might be
little.
somewhere. I might be somewhere around 10% of that, like 20, 25 books.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
That's impressive. I want to take this question from the audience from Amir. He's asking, do you tend to read one book at a time or two or three at a time? And also which genres if it's more than one?
That's a good question. I used to only stick to one book at a time, but probably in like the last year, I realized that I was also really good about reading two very different types of books. So oftentimes I'll be reading a novel and I'll mix it with like a work type book. So tech and data. So I'll have
Right.
two very different types of books and I'll change between them. And I find
Mhm.
it very effective. But what I would do is be careful and not read two of the same type of genre at the same time. So I have two very different books, and you can absolutely read multiple ones at the same time.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I've actually used to be similar where I couldn't read more than one book at a time. But now I could be between 4 or 5 books, and they are sort of different. One is like a data book, the other one's
Yeah,
a productivity book, the other one's community building. So it's sort of different enough where it's like watching 4 shows at the same time, where you can keep track of all of them.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
cool. Awesome. Take a last question here from the audience. George is asking if you prefer fiction or nonfiction.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't think
Good
I could pick
question.
one or the other, to be honest. Like, I love both of them. I'm a huge fan of just, novels and sci-fi, but then on the other hand, I love history and biographies. So I definitely can't pick between them, and I'm very often switching between both.
Okay, that's fair. It's
Yep,
hard to choose, right? There's so
yep,
many out there.
yeah,
If you do have time, Christina, questions are just flowing in for you. So if you want to go on LinkedIn and answer some of those directly, that would be awesome. I just want to be conscious of time since
yeah,
we
yeah,
have
yeah.
so many folks backstage, pounding at the door trying to get in here.
I'll be in the chat, so I'll see everyone in the chat and I'll answer a few questions there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christina,
Sure.
for the
Thank
awesome
you.
talk. All
Thank you
right.
so much. Bye bye.